So Zdesk is significantly different than what we've seen out in industry for a VDI platform. Zdesk leverages a platform that's referred to as a zero-layer architecture. Every bit and piece of the VDI architecture is included in every single install and every single license. So when you install the platform, it includes the hypervisor, it includes your orchestration layer, it includes software-defined storage. And when I say software-defined storage, I'm not just limited to maybe hyper-converged storage, but also the ability to leverage server memory as a primary storage tier. All right, so that in concert with the ability to configure software-defined networking and have a built-in gateway and an overall management UI that sits on top of this, so you have this single pane of glass view. That's where we really start to differentiate ourselves from that traditional approach to VDI. In your typical architecture, in your typical or traditional VDI architectures, you've got several components, right? And these components still exist within the Zdesk platform, but here in these traditional approaches to VDI, and these are reference architectures from some competing vendors. All of these are different components, right? They're different implementations. They're different points of management. You need a back-end database, and not just one database, but one that's replicated. You need redundant gateways and security servers, and you have a separate provisioning system that handles the entire provisioning of your desktops from a golden image or template. And this exists across vendors, right? So when you take these and you know, best practice over the past 20 years has always said, you take these management pieces and you put them on dedicated hardware, right? You want to separate that management workload from your resource workload. Well, that whole concept now goes away, right? With a single layer architecture where every piece of the VDI environment is included in every single install from the very first host. You no longer have that need to have a separate management hardware infrastructure. So immediately you begin to see the capital expense reduce, right? Or move those workload hosts into what we call a resource host and build out more VDIs. So when I want to touch on one of the things that I saw in the poll where people were struggling, and that's in scale. Well, scale traditionally means I need to add 1,000 new users. How do I scale? Well, traditionally that's been, how do I scale my provisioning system? How do I scale my central management? How do I scale my gateway, right? Because those have always been separate systems as part of the VDI architecture. With a consolidated system, you know, everything boiled down into that single piece of software like Zdesk, scale becomes easy. I need to add, you know, 1,000 more users. Well, each of my servers can handle 100 users. Well, then I need 10 servers, because each one of those 10 servers has all the management components that you need to run the environment, from provisioning to the ability to act as a gateway to the orchestration, software-defined storage, all those components that have traditionally been a different management interface, a different point of contact for your IT administrators, is now boiled down into a single piece of software under a single pane of glass management.
Gotcha. Okay.
So when we think about what does it replace, right? When we look at these architectures, if we can move on to the next slide, when we look at this traditional architecture and compare it to what I'm talking about from a Zdesk perspective, where everything is included in that single installation, you know, what does this impact, right? Well, we can see here all the different vendors that play in all the different areas of a VDI architecture, from, you know, profile management and the hypervisors and hyperconverged storage and, you know, brokering and gateway functionalities. When we look at across the environment and we look at all the different vendors that play in the VDI arena, you know, that's a significant reduction in not only the cost from a licensing perspective, right? Everybody has a different license as a piece of this entire puzzle. But think about calling for assistance, right? If I've got a perception that I've got a user profile issue, then I'm contacting the vendor for the user profile issue, who then puts it off on the vendor who does the hypervisor, right? So with a single platform, single piece of software, you have a single point of contact. You have one throat to choke, right? For that. So that's other than the reduction in licensing costs, that's just another what we would refer to as a soft benefit of moving to a single architecture, right, under a single piece of software.
So Greg, just a quick question. So all of these different modules that I'm seeing in the slide, are you saying that Zdisk replaces that into a single license or a single software?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
So each host has a single install, and as part of that install, all these pieces of software, all these features and functionality are built into that single piece of software. So if I want to use a gateway functionality, for example, for remote VDI access, I simply just turn it on. If I want to build out hyperconverged storage, I click on the storage button and I say I want to create hyperconverged storage. So everything's there. You don't have to leverage it all. You can, but you don't have to. Right? It's all
Gotcha.
part of the overall architecture.